Well, good evening, WNBA and LA Sparks fans, and, well, in general, women's basketball fans. We welcome you back here to the WNBA 365 Network. As always, your 24/7, 365 comprehensive home for everything revolving around the WNBA and the women's basketball universe. Joined here a bit shorthand tonight, folks, but we will be joined momentarily by a long-lost analyst of ours. Todd Mintz will join us via conference call momentarily from Orange County. With that, we do have, for the first time in a long time, folks, a all-California broadcast team here on WNBA 365. Of course, Cal McClure joining you folks in studio here from Studio 171 in San Diego. And, of course, joined tonight by the two off-the-bench subs, Crystal Thomas and Tanisha Stewart, all up in Los Angeles. And again, we will be joined momentarily via conference call by Todd Mintz up in Orange County. Ladies, good evening. How's everything going tonight?
Good. I'm doing good so far. I'm trying to fight this cold off like I'm Mike Tyson, but other than that, I'm good.
Yeah, sadly, folks, if you did not see our tweets today, we are a bit short-handed roster-wise. Again, Reagan Patrick is going to take some downtime, as we have probably you probably heard us say on Monday again, with all of us in some capacity. They're finishing up school or still in school. Of course, academics, even as a student athlete and also as a working professional, school is always first. So we'll let Reagan, of course, take care of all of her college and school stuff before anything else. And also, Eric Nemchuk is out this evening too, day-to-day listed on our pregame game notes due to flu-like symptoms. He should be back hopefully sometime soon. The rest of our week, folks, will be a back-to-back with tonight and then tomorrow, and then we'll be off for on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We will be back with you folks next on Monday. So again, to reiterate again, tonight, tomorrow, and then off on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and back in action on Monday. We'll have more about next week later on. And also, folks, that does bring me though to a pretty important point though I want to make about next Friday. Next Thursday and Friday, November 5th and 6th specifically. We'll be having the show live in Los Angeles at the Lux Center City Hotel. I'll be up in LA for a 2-day broadcasting and sports broadcasting workshop and basically a camp for 2 days. It's being hosted by ESPN and Fox Sports West and Fox Sports 1 and all their affiliates up in Los Angeles. We'll be having the show live from a hotel room for you folks next Thursday and Friday night back here on WNBA 365, and hopefully we'll have our full team back, fully healthy and hopefully with A's on the paper when we do get back to work next week. Again, that's Thursday and Friday, again, from the Lux Center City Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, California. Okay, guys, again, folks, we're waiting here on Todd Mintz. We'll again join us, folks, sometime tonight during the course of the program via conference call. With that, though, guys, we'll get to our talking point for the entire night is, of course, the Los Angeles Sparks. For their 2015 campaign, they'll be picking 5th overall in the draft this year. LA coming off of another rough season, 14-20 overall, finished 4th in the Western Conference, but ultimately were ousted by the eventual WNBA champion Minnesota Lynx in the first round of the postseason. So, Shorty, we'll start off with you. So, obviously, there's a lot of avenues we're going to be traveling on for the next 56 minutes here on the program, everything from the bad start to injuries to players sitting out, so on and so forth. But first, though, let's get your overall take on the LA season. Obviously, we knew it would be a rough one when we got the news about Candace Parker sitting out the first half of the season, and we sadly saw what life without her would be for this club. A very rough start to the season and a very rugged first half up until she did return back on July 28th in Minneapolis. Shorty, your final take, though, about this LA season and why?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, for our squad, I mean, there were so many ups and so many downs, actually, to begin with. Then the ups came later on. But, okay, so briefly, I just want to start off with, okay, so at the start of the season, they get a new sponsor with Equal Trust. Now, if everyone that knows me knows that I can't stand, sponsor names on the jerseys, but I mean, in this case, I mean, every WNBA team needs a sponsor to survive, so, I was all right with it. All right, so the season starts off with LA bringing in a new head coach, a head coach that, of course, none of us was pretty much thinking of, I mean, Brian Agler. I mean, of course we knew we were going to get a new head coach, but we didn't think it was going to be, someone who was already active with another franchise. So, yes, Brian Agler came in. Then we get news that, as you already stated, Candace Parker sitting out the first half of the season, citing rest. KT missing the first 7 or 8 games to play with her national team, the Slovak Republic. And then NECA ends up, you know, uh, dealing with a sprained ankle in training camp. So LA gets off to a terrible start at 0-7, and then along the line, KT finally comes back, NECA comes back, and then Anna Dovovich, comes along. But by the All-Star break, they're still at a terrible 3-15. Then, actually, also, throughout the season, multiple players battling injuries along the way. Beard, left foot, Aaron Phillips, knee. Also, Freya Abdi, dealt with a knee injury. All right, then we'll get to that later. We'll get to that later, Crystal. Hold up. All right, so after the season, I mean not after the season, but after the All-Star break, Candace Parker comes back, and oh my goodness, she has one heck of a second half. Uh, taking LA to a 11-15 second half run for them to ultimately make the playoffs. And then they get in the playoffs, and they don't have the results that they wanted, but they at least made it to, they pushed it to a 3-game series, and they get killed by the Lynx. So like I said, that's how their season went. It was just pretty much crazy.
Crystal, as we already brought up, you hear the news about Candace Parker taking that much-deserved, much-needed time off to rest her body. I mean, 8 consecutive years overseas. We'll get to, of course, more about her later on throughout the entire course of the show this evening. But Crystal, the struggle bus was like the only thing you can really say about the Sparks, just struggling game in and game, day in and day out, game in and game out, where you saw them so early in the year getting blown out or blowing huge leads in the second half, or playing better but still losing games by a couple of points, and then you just saw those games where it was like a 20, 25, 30-point loss to bigger and better teams. And again, like I said, we saw what life without Candace Parker would be like if the fans got their wish and she was dealt away or she went somewhere else, and it would be a very rough first half of the season like it was. And ultimately she does come back and puts the team back on her shoulders, and they brings them across the finish line in the playoffs again for a record-setting 15th time the Sparks into the postseason, most amongst any WNBA franchise in the league's soon-to-be 20-year history. And of course, they don't get the results that they wanted, though, losing in round 1 to Minnesota, the eventual champs. But Crystal, your final take on the entire LA season and why?
I think pretty much Shorty just nailed it on the head. I mean, they were pretty bad. I mean, especially going to some of those games, personally seeing what was wrong, especially all the injuries. I think this is probably the most injuries that the Sparks have had all season. And it didn't help. I think Shorty touched on this. It didn't help. I think AB was out for the first 13 games of the season or something like that. So it was just the whole season just injury ridden, just bad. I mean, when CP came back, there was a little life there, but I don't think there was enough. I think at that point their goal was to just make the playoffs, which they did. But other than that, I think, deep down inside, they knew that the championship dream wasn't there this year.
Yeah, Crystal, I totally 100% concur with you that the championship dream was dashed, I think, after the first 7 games of the season when the Sparks got off to their worst start in their 19-year history of 0-7. I mean, you've seen this team, get off to better starts, or, I guess even a better, even a worse start than 0-7, either 1 or 2 wins here or there. But at least it was something better than 0-7, of course, and seeing them, it was, really tough to see a team, of the caliber of a LA franchise just, struggle bus. I mean, like I said, on the struggle bus, from game in and game out, and like I had said earlier, and Shorty, we'll now go, of course, talk about, the bigger story of the LA season, of course, which, again, was Candace Parker, again, electing to take what I believe and still believe was a much-deserved and much-needed, few months extra of rest to give her body, some type of a mental and physical break from, of course, the constant flow of playing year-round basketball. And I know that, at least 75 to 90% of the LA fan base, threw her under the struggle bus with the team. She wasn't signed for one deal, of course, the contract, of course, had ended after the 2014 season had ended. And, we saw the social media reaction, like, this is stupid, why are you doing this? To the point where Parker has to block some of our Twitter friends out there because it was a constant day in and day out, fly on the wall, like, I don't care about your rest. Get back and help your teammates out. When we need to, when fans, though, I think, needed to kind of look at the other side of the spectrum and see, look, this isn't, this was a business decision. And as she even told Nick Hamilton, one of my good friends that works for the Rebel Media Group in LA at the ESPYs, this was not about the money. This was not about, any personal, about anything towards the franchise. It was just, look, I need to give myself a break and, sleep in a bit longer, and stay with my family for a bit. Of course, Parker elected not to go overseas this year. But Shorty, how about your take on this whole thing? Because I know that we had one similar type of issue in 2014 with Christy Tolliver. But your thoughts about Candace Parker taking that time off, and how did you feel about that as well? And also your reaction to the fans, LA or not, how they reacted to this entire thing as well, and why.
Well, for starters, not to just include myself, but I think everyone, on this entire show, we all, supported CP, sitting out for the first half of the season because, her reasoning made sense, Like I said, this, always brings up the conversation of, WNBA players playing year-round overseas in the off-season, WNBA in the summer. And we all know that Candace Parker is definitely one of those players to play nearly year-round. So it made sense for her to want to take a break, and, try to get her legs back under her, after having a long EuroLeague season that, led them to the championship game in EuroLeague with her Russian team. But, of course, I don't want to bash some of the fans, but hey, I have to admit, I have to be real here. Some Sparks fans are selfish. Some WNBA fans are selfish overall, and they don't see things from a player's perspective. They only see it from a fan's perspective, their perspective, and their tickets and things like that. But I mean, it made sense for her to sit out. So those fans that were questioning her, I mean, it didn't make any sense at all. She, needed to rest, so, the organization allowed her to. But I'm pretty sure you guys weren't complaining when she came back, because, my goodness, Candace came back and lit the floor up. She came back and literally led in every statistical category for the team. In PPG, 19.4, rebounds, 10.1, assists, 6.3, led the team in steals, 1.9, led the team in blocks, 1.8. So she came back and did it all, and she was that spectacular because she was well rested and super energized, and she performed like, a superstar is supposed to. But I mean, for all that crap everyone was talking about, they were proven wrong because CP came back and did her thing.
Crystal, I have to agree with Shorty on this one because, I think it was a load of crap of how the fans treated their star player. I mean, I know that fans, and particularly in Los Angeles, in New York, that have teams, because I can't speak for that in San Diego because my teams, lose or they leave for different cities because whatever the reason may be. But I can't talk about rings on my fingers with my teams in San Diego because we don't have any. I mean, all we have is at least you tried our participation trophies. That's all we get in San Diego. But in Los Angeles, in New York, in bigger cities bigger markets, bigger cities that have teams that win a lot or that win championships, that get the job done when it counts the most, you tend to get spoiled. Laker fan, Sparks fan, whatever it may be, or whoever you may root for that wins a lot. I think that Shorty, though, was right, though, that, a lot of the LA fan base, talking to them directly, that, they acted childish during the entire time that she was sitting out, to the point where, again, she had to step in and, like I said, they'll block them on social media or tell them off sometimes, because, again, they don't see the whole picture. There's an old saying about a picture saying 1,000 words. In their case, the picture said maybe 10 words, maybe at most, because they didn't realize the reason behind it. And I think even in every press release, every interview that was done about that, where as Shorty said, though, again, they gave Parker the full obligation to sit out the first half of the season. Again, and I think it was important, though, that when she was at the ESPYs and when she was talking to Nick Hamilton, she clearly said, this isn't about the money. This isn't about money, or about anything in regards to what Diana Taurasi had done a little bit earlier in the offseason, again, with her paid leave of absence from the season. But, Crystal, your thoughts still about this entire situation? Because obviously this was kind of like the BG Glory Johnson snafu for LA specifically, was Candace Parker sitting out the first half of the season. Your thoughts and why?
I don't think it was exactly like that, but I get you
that way.
So I'm gonna go back in time to last year for a little bit. Like Shorty touched on it a little bit. When Chrissy Tauber did this last year, I saw a lot of fans getting their panties in a wad thin about a situation they didn't understand. And at that time, I was kind of like, hey, relax. She's doing this for people don't realize that these athletes aren't going to be able to play forever. So they're thinking about their bodies, they're thinking about their life after the game, they're thinking about their family. So in this case, they've got to be careful. Basketball is a game, you can't play it forever, and in this case, I respect what Candace Parker did. She rested her body, chilled with her family, and then when she came back, she was like an animal. She was a beast out there. And a lot of the fans, I agree, are spoiled. I'm like a half LA fan, I guess you could say, because I'm not, I understand the spoiledness, but they should be happy because Candace wasn't even going to play in the season at all. So if the fact that she mustered up and was like, you know what, I'm going to play the second half, that should be something fans should be proud of, because if Candace would have had it her way, she wasn't going to play at all. So I think fans need to realize there's a bigger picture of just us fans. I mean, they got families, they got to take care of their body, they got things they got to do. So I actually respected it, and I'm kind of glad she sat out if it meant the betterment of prolonging her career.
Okay, we have one quick tweet from Philly Kid 215 at Rambot68, who is watching us tonight. And again, Philly Kid, thanks for tuning in tonight. They go on to say with the Candace Parker situation, a lot of the fans were selfish. Asking for her to be traded after all she does for LA was unacceptable in their minds. Close tweet. Shorty, your thoughts about that response and why?
Completely idiotic. Completely. Like, why would you want to trade, someone of her caliber just because she decides to take a rest? I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all. They didn't make sense at all when they were saying it back then. And like we, just continue to, so many fans only thinking about seeing their favorite player and not factoring in what these players, go through on a daily basis. And just like Crystal previously said, it's just more about basketball. There's, families involved that they have to take care of. Candace Parker, besides being a basketball player, she's also a mom as well. So you guys don't take that into consideration either. So, just all the hoopla surrounding her sending out and them, certain fans wanting her to be traded is just stupid.
Okay, Crystal, to rehash and reiterate the tweet again from @Rambot68. Tweet reads, with the Candace Parker situation, a lot of the fans were selfish. Asking for her to be traded after all she does for LA was unacceptable in their minds. Close quote. Crystal, react to me. What do you got?
That person is correct. I mean, that's stupid. You wouldn't. I hate comparing the men's game to the women's game, but you wouldn't trade away Michael Jordan if he took a rest. It's stupid. I mean, why would you if a player wants to do right by her team and rest her body, let them rest their body. And the crazy thing is, this is how you know LA fans are really biased. Nobody will say trade Dinah Taurasi. Dinah Taurasi took a rest technically, and nobody's yelling trade Dinah Taurasi. So it's like, why? What's the big deal about Candace Parker doing it, and nobody's saying anything about Dinah Taurasi doing it?
In spite of Cindy Brunson, one of the great women's basketball writers and announcers for many networks, again, we know that she had kind of, thrown a little bit of a corny joke in about both Ace and DT sitting out, where there was a difference of 3, which was, of course, the 3 championship rings that separates Diana and Candace Parker's career. But, KT and Tanisha hit it on the head, though, about this. Specifically, Crystal did again. You would not in any other sport see a team trade away their franchise or marquee superstar for a little for something like this that in my mind was justified and also was needed and necessary for her entire off-season career, or for the entire off-season. Again, was taking that half a season off, and again, it was and again, as we had said though and articulated that, guys, was the fact that again, with the whole situation, again, just looking back over the tweet, I mean, I really don't know where to go on this one. I mean, the entire social media jungle out there during the entire time was, to the point where I would just leave and just, whatever it may be, because it was awful to see, just some of the derogatory stuff and just, all the, nitpicking stuff about this whole situation. Again, folks, as we all know, again, about Candace Parker sitting on half a season. But Shorty, again, though, I think though that it's important though that we do say here again that she even told various media outlets in Los Angeles that again this was a personal decision. This was not about endorsements, money, or what have you. And Shorty, could she really have been much more clear about the situation than what we read maybe in the newspapers or heard, either here on the network or through other media pundits on social media, perhaps? Could she have been a bit more clear about the whole situation in your mind, or what?
She was 100% clear. It was first, stated in a Sparks press release, and then she told numerous media outlets, like you said, hey, it's not about what she said, it's about what people wanted to hear. And they didn't want to hear, her reasoning for it. They just came up with their own preconceived notions about the whole ordeal and then made judgments from there. So there was not much she could say, to explain herself even further. Just people's minds were made up, and that's what they thought.
Crystal, obviously, that this is kind of, in a way, as I said, this is LA's kind of touchy subject. I think that so far we talk about teams that have touchy subjects, whether it be, of course, the Griner and Johnson issue, of course, over the offseason with both of those franchises. And now, of course, LA had their own little mini debacle, of course, with Parker sitting out. Crystal, in your mind, though, as much as Candace tried her best to better the situation by what she did, iterate and say in press, could she have done maybe a better job in your mind about reassuring the fans about her situation at all, and why?
I think she did, what she had to do. She's a grown woman. She shouldn't have to explain why she does what she does. If you don't get it, then you just don't get it. Most of us, most smart fans got it, shall I say. There's any time a player says they want to rest, they're trying to do it for the betterment of the team, betterment of their body. Candace Parker she's not old, but she's not as young as she was. She's trying to make sure she has a longevity so she can play, up to like Lisa Leggie's age or like Taj Williams Franklin's age. And you don't just, get longevity by luck. It comes with taking care of your body and taking it easy, and people don't realize those overseas trips for 8 straight years end up taking a toll on your body mentally and also takes a toll on you physically. So I think she explained everything the way she was supposed to explain it.
I just don't know. I really just don't know if there's a way at all that any of us could further explain a situation that we have tried that you try to explain to someone. I kind of know that with our former co-host, I mean, he had a terrible time trying to, let his folks know that he wanted to go to the home opener this year, and, they weren't budging at all about that until he had to kind of like force his way to go. And I think, though, that we've all kind of been in those kind of circumstances where we've had to try to, explain ourselves further about either wrongdoing or about whatever it may be that you've tried to re-explain yourself. And I think that Candace Parker tried her best. But as we said, though, guys, the LA fans, it goes in one ear and it goes out the other ear. Like, okay, you're not on the floor, though. You're not helping us perform. So why should I listen to what you have to say? Basically, is what I would say about about this thing. Is it goes in one ear, out the other, because, like we said, though, they don't care about their personal story or about their lives. It's all about what you do for me on the floor is all that matters. And if you hang banners in the rafters, I don't care about your personal life, your husband, your daughter, your dogs. I don't care about any of that. It's all about what you do on the floor, because that is the mindset of LA and New York, and I think any sports fan, like I said, though, any sports fan in a city that has a good reputation in winning, LA, New York, Boston, even Chicago in the 90s with the Bulls, that's a fan's mindset, and it is a terrible, despicable mindset for you as a fan to have, because, well, like we said, they're people like us. They just do something a little bit better than all three of us in this hangout, and, to see that, it's flat out sickening to see that happen, and hopefully once a different situation like this comes up, that it's a bit more resolved, I guess, about this. But again, folks, we had talked about, again, Candace Parker, again, electing to take that first half of the season off. But, okay, guys, we'll go away from that for a moment. But going back, though, to the overall Sparks season, again, but Sparks in finishing, guys, 14-20 again after what was a very sad 3-15 start to the season, again, where you saw the Sparks really scuffle from game to game. I mean, we saw, an instance of them getting blown out game one, leading until the fourth quarter, blowing that lead incrementally, and then seeing other games where they were just getting whitewashed in the early going. Again, a 3-15 record at the All-Star break, and then, of course, Parker comes back, 14-20 overall finish for 2 straight years of below 500 play, but getting into the postseason. Shorty, let's talk about Nneka Ogwumike and Jantel Lavender. This was their first chance to showcase why the Sparks drafted them in the respective years of the draft, of course, in the past few years, of course. And this was their first chance to kind of step into the spotlight and be the franchise superstar, again, taking Parker's role from the season. Shorty, what would you say about Lav and Nneka's seasons overall? Again, that Nneka battled a few injuries, including an ankle problem and then the concussion late in the season. Jantel Lavender, the Iron Woman of the team, has not missed a start or missed a game in her entire career so far. Shorty, your thoughts about those two, kind of being left with big shoes to fill with Ace being gone. Your thoughts about their seasons and why?
I mean, of course, like I said, the season didn't start off the way everyone had hoped, but still, those two, oh my goodness, they still, statistically, they brought it. I mean, prior to Candace coming back, Nneka led the team in scoring with 16.5 PPG. Lavender was second with 14.5 PPG. J-Lav led the team in rebounding with 8.3. Nneka second with 7.3. And then the their assist total, hold on. Their assist total. Yeah, I got to get my notes. All right, the assist total. Nneka, 2.1 in assists. Lav, 1.8. But still, I mean, those two, still, carried the rock. And they were still efficient, from the floor. And, they carried this team and still, did what they needed to do. Like I said previously, Nneka did, start off the season injured. She didn't play in the first few games after suffering an ankle sprain in camp. But other than that, I mean, when she came back, I mean, she was balling out. Jantel, she led the league in double-doubles, well, actually tied in double-doubles once CP came back. but that just shows you how incredible CP is. But
Exactly.
yeah, she once led the league in double doubles with 12. So those two, came back and did their thing for the LA Sparks.
Crystal, like I've said again, you knew life without Candace Parker was going to be rough for the first half of the season. But in spite of the start and the record, again, you had two diamonds in the rough come to the forefront, and again have their very first chance to, showcase why LA drafted them in prior year's draft. But anyway, your overall thoughts though about how Lav and NECA progressed in this season. What do you think and why?
Um, they progressed greatly. I mean, looking at Lav's numbers last year, she scored 11.9 points last year, and that went up. And I don't know, I think that was just hard work. I think like Shorty said, even when CP came back, she was still up there for double double. So that lets you know J Lav worked really hard. She was just a monster. Her and Neko both. I mean, they were just monsters out there. They pretty much was the glue that kept the Sparks together while CP and KT were gone. Um, they, if it wasn't for them, I honestly don't think we would have had that. What was it? We were 3-15. We wouldn't even win those three games if it wasn't for those two. You know, it would have been disastrous. And of course, Sparks fans would have had something else to complain about, like they always do. But what's new? So it's we pretty much owe half of the season to them on how we even made it to the playoffs in the first place.
All right, guys, we'll head back over to our social media hub on Twitter from our good friend up in Toronto from at @t.girl at @t._girl21. She says about the Candace Parker situation, guys, to start with Shorty on this one. Shorty, she says, I think some fans just like to nitpick anything CP does. I respect the fact she was honest about needing rest, close tweet. Shorty, react to me. What do you got?
I mean, I definitely agree with E-Dot. I mean, fans do like the nitpick on everything, especially at the franchise player. They hold them to the highest regard. So, of course, they're always going to nitpick and pick apart what they do, overall. But, I mean, just like we already stated, I mean, that wasn't needed, and she came back and, played her heart out.
Crystal, to reiterate again, tweet again from @t._girl21. Tweet reads, I think some fans just like to nitpick anything CP does. I respect the fact she was honest about needing a rest. Close tweet. Crystal, react to me.
They do. They do. I don't know what it is about CP, but I mean I didn't see a problem with it. I just think fans don't understand what goes on. I think fans just see the athletes as just athletes and don't realize that these people have families that they go home to after every game. They have thoughts, emotions, and feelings, and I don't think people understand that outside of being an athlete, they're human too. So, I mean, athletes need their rest just like we need their rest. So I just don't think people understand what an athlete goes through.
Guys, I was going to get to this, and it completely eluded me because I got a little bit fired up about, talking about this. And again, it's not out of defense or out of being soft because Candace Parker is a dear friend of mine in the league for what I've been able to do with her in regards to interview and writing stories for my blog about her. It's not about that. Personal stories go out the window, folks, and go out the door in this type of situation. But, Shorty and Crystal, at least with my personal experience playing sports, I went through the same little struggle, that you can kind of say, the overseas struggle of these WNBA athletes. Again, I did it for 4 years where I had played, a full regular baseball season for high school and played a little bit more over the summer. And I took 1 week off, and then I was on a plane, going to play in Japan, in Italy, Mexico, and Australia for 4 years. And I'm telling you guys, I mean, doing that for 4 years, it was a real eye-opener about the life of a WNBA player because, there's a lot of hurdles as much as they go through with the struggle of the WNBA over here. But, the bigger struggle, though, of doing it overseas when they're away from home and, no family, no friends, different time zones, so on and so forth, the new culture, it's tough to do. And mentally it's tough, of course, as I just said about that. But, physically, the toll that it takes on the body, it is atrocious. I mean, like I've said a few times on here, guys, I've not played in a game in 3 years in regards to, playing baseball, whatnot. But, I mean, I wake up sometimes either in the morning or early afternoon, and there's days where, either my back flares up, both my, graham cracker knees, don't want to move or whatever it may be, a couple bad ankles, and I've got one really messed up elbow from throwing so much. And I'm telling you guys, I mean, it may be all fun and games, to, play overseas and whatnot, but, when you do it year round like I did, playing a sport for 13 years of your life from age 5 to 18, hey, it's a real burden, it's a real struggle, and, I mean, some days it's tough for me to get out of bed, and like I tell a lot of people, there's days where I, miss playing baseball, but then there's days like today or tomorrow maybe where it's like, okay, I'm glad I'm done playing because, this 6'4" frame wouldn't be able to move sometimes during the course of a game. Shorty, is that something else that's kind of misconstrained too, though, is, the constant, always being in motion and stuff, and constantly moving, with practices and two-a-days and, whatever it may be, whatever they do the whole year, though, does that, in your mind, also play into a factor about why Parker as well needed the rest as well? Was, of course, that year, the year-long commitment, and why?
Most definitely, and I mean, yeah, most definitely it plays a factor. I mean, and not just, having to practice, but having like long practice hours. Sometimes it goes into 3 hours, sometimes it goes into 4 hours, just, preparing day by day, getting in game shape, running plays and, setting up the offense and things like that. So that most definitely, play into a factor. But I know when you get to Crystal, she can tell you better than me because she's definitely still active.
Yeah, Crystal, you're more active than either me or Shorty, because I had to kind of, put my career on hiatus and basically retire from playing sports because, of, the state of my body, and plus I'm doing something bigger and better than playing sports. But, I mean, Crystal, you and I have been through the struggle, through the athlete struggle. I was, I'm actually a friend on Snapchat of Courtney Dunbar, who's playing at the University of Tennessee. She's a sophomore. And, seeing her story today reminded me vaguely of my days in high school, 7 o'clock, 7:30 class, all the way till you get out of class and you go to practice, for a few hours. I mean, it's, school for the course of the day, practice or a game, come home, do all your homework, eat dinner, ice bath, and then you go to sleep. I mean, that's just the constant cycle and grind of an athlete that I still live, even now that I'm not playing after 3 years of not playing. But, Crystal, I mean, you know it better than we do. What do you think about the whole thing and why?
I mean, I think both you guys, hit it on the head with that one. I mean, it's just, in order to be an athlete, not only is it physical, but it's really mental. I mean, you just have to really want to get up every day and just want to go to practice. There's been days where I didn't want to go to practice, but, you do it because you love it. And I think, it's tough. I don't think people realize, unless they've been there, how tough it is to wake up and, sometimes you have 2 days, sometimes you have 3 days, you're tired, you really don't get that much sleep. I don't think people understand how much that affects you and your body. And they have to, I think what it is, if most fans were in that situation, they would be like, okay, I needed to take a rest too. But because most fans are in that situation, they only look at it as, we need her to win this game for us. We don't care if she goes home with a broken nose or if she has a concussion. We just want her to go out there and fight for us because that's all we care about. And it's not really fair for the athlete.
Shorty, there was one other player we really did not really touch base on, and that was also Christy Tolliver, of course, who had a very turbulent 2014 season and a rugged 2015 season. Both of her seasons cut short due to overseas obligations. We know that we were kind of, in a way, kind of, sounding off about fans getting on her as well during 2014 because, again, she missed 8 games early in the year because of her commitment to the Slovakian national team for the Eurobasket tournament, and ultimately as well for this year for the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro. Sure. I mean, I know that we read the articles. We were having tissue boxes nearby because of what the Washington Post had written back in August, in a tremendous story written by the main beat writer for the Washington Post about, Christy Tolliver, taking that drive to the airport. And it's bad when the person's dog starts whimpering and crying because they know the route to the airport. And, of course, bidding Christy off for those few weeks while she was over in Slovakia. Shorty, obviously, we know that she is now a folk hero for the Sparks. She's now the all-time leader for most points scored in a single game when she put up 43 and dropped that on the former Tulsa Shock, soon to be in Dallas this upcoming season. In a thrilling game that the Sparks pulled out late in the end at Staples Center with her 43 points. But Shorty, maybe other than the 43-point game, your thoughts, though, about the burden that she was carrying with her for all of 2014 and then even into this year where it spilled over into 2015. How do you think, though, she was able to block out what she was going through personally with the travel and leaving the team constantly? How did she, in your mind, really stay tough when the going got tough for her, and she was able to do a lot of good things with LA this season? Your thoughts and why?
The word that comes to my mind right now is perseverance, and that's definitely what KT had. Going through everything. Now, we know that CP didn't, rest for financial reasons, but we do know that KT took, that position joining the Slovak Republic national team because of a financial reason. She needed more pay overseas, so she joined the national team in hopes of, getting a better salary overseas, and she eventually ended up getting one with Yemka, Ekaterinburg, in Russia. But she was pretty decent even with the missed games. Her PPG went up. She had 12.4 this year. Her rebounding went up 2.3. The only thing that took a minor hit with her is her assists. In the 2014 season, 1.4. This year, 3.7. But I think the 3.7, assist total is because she missed, time. Even though, of course, she missed time last year, but still, I think it affected her even more this year a little bit. So her assists went down. But other than that, she came back guns a blazing. We talk about the 43-point game at Tulsa. Let's talk about the very first game she came back versus New York. 30 points. Now, before her season, PPG high was 29, but she finally came back. When she came back in that first game, dropped 30 points on New York. Everyone was like, "My goodness, yes, the stats right here: 30 points, two assists, one steal." She had a big welcome back party, and it was in New York. But overall, with all the crap that KT went through, she persevered, and she, eventually had a great season this year.
Crystal, I know that you are probably the biggest Christy Tolliver fan in the obviously out of us doing the hangout, you're by far the biggest one, and there's a pretty nice little friendship that you got going on with a significant other of Christy Tolliver's that we will not get into, of course, on here, but we do. It's a pretty nice little story, folks. If you want to know about that later on, you can ask Crystal about it later. But Crystal, obviously, we know though that, I think Tanisha hit it on the head though. Perseverance is the perfect word though to describe how Christy Tolliver jumped all those hurdles in her path through the entire 2014 campaign and into the 2015 season, and again having that 30-point game in New York, and of course the 43-point game against the Shock at Staples Center, which of course had Staples shaking as much as it did when Robert Horry beat the Kings in that dramatic 2002 game with that three at the buzzer. We saw the whole building just moving, and the vibe and the atmosphere and the noise level, probably the loudest it's been in a long time for a Sparks game, and who knows how long. Crystal, your overall take though about how she was able to get through all of this nonsense in her career and how she came out and, as we said, kind of guns a-blazing when she did come back this year. Your thoughts and why?
Well, the first thing in New York, when I saw that tweet of that that jersey, it brought tears to my eyes. Because I was like, Christy's back, y'all. And I had to go to the bathroom and wipe my face a little bit. It was beautiful, man. I'm telling you. It was beautiful. I feel like I waited 6 years for that to happen. But it was, like Shorty said, that welcome back game, I think that shut her haters up. Because people were criticizing KT for what she did in 2014. And they were even criticizing her a little bit for this year. And I think once she really played in that game and showed them, look, I still have game. I can still shoot the lights out. I'm still here. I think that's what made people realize that Chrissy Tolliver, as I like to say, Chrissy the God, is the truth. And in that 43-point game, I was actually there to witness that. I have never hit a high step higher in my life. It was beautiful. I'm telling you, for a second there, like I can't dance, but I was trying to pop lock. I was trying to do everything. Like looking at her break that record in person, I'm telling you, that was probably one of the most amazing things I did. And then the fact that she was so humble about it, it was kind of just like it was nothing to her, and that's probably one of the top reasons why I'm a Chris Tolliver fan. It was just she didn't take that 43 game for granted. She kind of just like, okay, it's another game. We still have another one left. Got a long season. This one game doesn't matter, and I like that about her, and I think that pretty much showed her that she still has game, she's still here to play, and even though she kind of had that burden, it kind of bothered her, but for that game, she was pretty much like a kid again, and I loved it.
Shorty, the other unsung hero, other than, of course, NECA and Lav and Katie coming back as well, was Ana Domovic, who came in mid-season, of course, same type of deal with Katie, of course, having that little overseas commitment wrap up during the season. And, of course, when she came, was, I believe, perhaps a frontrunner for perhaps if they do or if they still have the Sixth Woman of the Year award perhaps for the league. I mean, the way that she came off the bench and ignited her team, in big-time situations. I mean, we saw her go all out in Game 2 against the Lynx at the Walter Pyramid and, in Long Beach in that playoff game. Came out on fire and just played a great, a great game for her. And of course, I think though obviously the language barrier is one deal, of course, with her. Of course, you need to find different ways to, of course, communicate with her on the floor. But Shorty, I mean, what did the Sparks find though in Ana Domovic when they did make that move? Because of course, Shorty, all three of us are kind of doing this, like, why are you signing a player that we have no knowledge about, or obviously, that we really don't know very well? But well, Shorty, she made her presence known and kind of made us eat our words a little bit. Your thoughts about Ana Domovic coming over to the Sparks this season and why?
I mean, just like you stated, everyone, saw that the Sparks had signed her. We were all like, kind of like, what the? But then we were like, okay, we trust Brian Agler's judgment. But for me, I'm not surprised at her overall performance because I do know that when it comes to scouting overseas talent, I think Brian Agler and Mike Tebow are two of the best coaches in the WNBA at scouting, overseas talent. So, when she was brought in, she was, pretty decent, stat-wise. 8.8 PPG, 1.8 assists, 1.9 rebounds, but like I said, statistically she was decent. But when she, when we finally got to see like the eye test, finally seeing her, she was amazing. She was amazing, and we were like, oh my goodness, and her dropping 17 points in the playoffs. We were all like, my goodness, but Brian Agler definitely found a diamond in the rough, and he found Ana Domovic. And last but not least, she was named to the All-Rookie team this season. So I was like, okay, there you go, girl. We see you doing your thing. But yeah, she was a great pickup for Los Angeles.
Crystal, as we said, again, Ana Domovic, as we said, the language barrier, of course, with her teammates and even fans, of course, very well being at the little postseason get-together up there at Tom's Urbans in LA Live again. Obviously a bit tough to, of course, communicate with someone that doesn't speak a whole lot of English. I know that firsthand, too, with all my experience of playing overseas baseball, meeting the kids from Korea and Japan and Italy and Mexico, so on and so forth, yada, yada, yada. But, Crystal, when we finally saw Domovic play, and we were, a little bit, not really sold on her because we didn't know a whole lot about her and what she was going to bring to the table for the Sparks. But when he did see her, like Shorty said, it was like, oh my goodness, what did Brian Nagler find? Like,
Yeah.
did he find like an old fossil somewhere in the, buried somewhere in Los Angeles or whatever it may have been? I mean, it was absolutely incredible to watch her play. And as Shorty said, though, all rookie team nominee this year. And again, I would have thought, possibly a sixth Woman of the Year, candidate as well. Crystal, your thoughts about Ana Dabovic's season? Again, I know it was short-lived, but hey, you got her for a full season next year. Your thoughts and why?
She was balling, especially at that playoff game. I was there. I mean, just to see that, and she came alive. She came alive when we needed her, and Brian Agler did find a gem. The only thing that I can say is I'm glad that Brian Agler found her before anybody else did, because imagine if she was on another team, what would happen?
I mean, I don't know what it would be either. We'll go back now, folks, to the social media hub. Back on Twitter, again, another tweet from T.Girl, again, at T._Girl21. Shorty, we'll start off with you. She says, hope Ana Dabovic is coming back next season. She was a nice surprise for L.A. Shorty, give us your reaction and why.
I definitely agree. She was a big surprise and a great pickup for her. I mean, a great pickup for Los Angeles, but as far as contracts go, I think she's on a rookie deal. She's a first-year player, so she will definitely come back next season. But there may be a point to where she may possibly miss some time due to, I think she's on the Serbian national team. If I'm not mistaken, she's on the national team, so she may miss some time. But other than that, yeah, LA got her locked up for a few years.
Okay, Crystal, again, to rehash the first tweet, because we had one more tweet come in, but we'll stay on this one for right now, and then we'll start with you with the next one again. T.Girl again says, hope Dabovic is coming back next season. Nice surprise for LA. React to me. What do you got?
I mean, why wouldn't she come back? I would hope so. I mean, I think she's gonna do wonders for us, especially, we don't know what's gonna happen next season. Like Shorty said, I think she might miss a couple of games because of the national team, but that's a gem. She's gonna be good in this league. She's gonna be really good.
Absolutely. Okay, we had one more tweet come in here again from Philly Kid 215, again from Matt Rambots 68. The tweet reads, Ana was amazing this season. Favorite moment, step back jumper, buzzer beater when the Sparks beat the Fever at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. Glad she's with LA. Close tweet. Obviously, one of the very few. So I would say that, but one of the very few highlights for the Sparks this 2015 season. And folks, we'll be back on the air again with you folks tomorrow night when we do recap the season for the Tulsa Shock. And of course, guys, a lot to talk about with that franchise. I'll be again tomorrow night back here between 9 and or 9:30, depending on what time we feel most comfortable coming on the air here tomorrow. And again, the Tulsa Shock will be the team tomorrow again back here on WNBA 365. Shorty, obviously, I know that you guys were holding in a little bit more about some of the bench players this year. Obviously, we know that. Okay, so the Sparks again brought in Tamika Johnson for the season to kind of be that first initial spark plug off the bench, and obviously, of course, keeping Jennifer Hampson, their long lost draft pick from 2014, of course, took that 1 year off because of her eligibility to play one more year of volleyball at BYU. Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, and of course there was other players as well. Of course, Michelle Snow brought in late in the season, and of course Faria Abdi was also on the bench for a brief time, and of course everyone else that was on the bench was either injured. Of course, Neka Gumake, again with that concussion suffered against Chicago late in the season, and of course the early season ankle sprain. Of course, Aaron Phillips as well was a pretty vital role to the early part of the season, but of course had a meniscus tear mid-season. Also, Mariana Tolo suffered a torn ACL in that game that Dabovic beat the Fever at the buzzer. Shorty, your overall thoughts on the other players that we did not mention on the program? Of course, a lot of them bench players, first-year players like Tolo and Dabovic, who, of course, we talked about a bit, but, of course, other players on there like Johnson, Abdi, and, of course, Michelle Snow brought in for about 4 games or maybe even 2 games to kind of be a veteran spark off the bench, you can sort of say. Shorty, any other thoughts, though, about other pieces of the LA puzzle going forward and why?
I mean, the bench for the season, I think it was pretty good overall. I mean, they had their ups and downs as well, but I mean, statistically, I mean, looking at Hampson, I mean, Hampson was coming into the season one of my favorite rooks because, I followed her career at BYU and she was so amazing. Also was a volleyball player there too, but her assists, I mean, she averaged 1.6 PPG, 1.5 assists, and I mean, when she got on the floor, I mean, she, was decent for the most part. Of course, she didn't get much playing time as I would have hoped because, as most should know, Brian Agler isn't too fond of rookies. So, I mean, I hope she took, most of her time during the season and hopefully this off season to continue to develop her game because I would definitely like to see more of her, in the coming years. Tolo, we talk about
Mhm.
Dafovich being a gem. Tolo was also a gem. I mean, uh, 4.9 PPG, 1 assist, 3 rebounds. I mean, she was pretty good too. Before that ACL tear, I mean, that broke my heart literally because she knew the moment it happened. She knew, and then Candace also knew because she went up to her, when she was on the floor and asked what happened. And when she told her, Candace looked off with the expression of saying a bad word, as we all know. But I mean, she played. She at least got to play in 28 games, so uh, at least she got on the floor a lot. Bradford. She's a project in the making. I mean, 2.7 points. 2.7 points. 1.3 assists. I mean, she's a project, but I think with more development from her, Bradford would be pretty decent in the coming weeks. Quickly, let me get to TJ. High in assists with yeah, she was high in assists rather with the 3.6 in assists. So yeah, about edges. Oh, I mean, TJ. Um, I mean, I mean, she. Don't die on me, Crystal. She was okay in certain games. She drove, but I mean, she's Mighty Mouse. So when she, put her heart into it, she can't do somewhat, but just thought it was too.
Okay, folks, we're having a bit of a minor technical
In
difficulty
last
right now. Or
nice.
we're kind of entrenched in a little small technical
I
fault
mean,
right now with Shorty. Crystal, over to you real quick while we try to get this resolved real quick with
uh,
Shorty. We know about the technical difficulties, nothing new here. But Crystal, overall though, I mean, obviously you and I actually know a bit. You and I actually know firsthand though about a couple of WIPs or works in progress. Of course, you and I saw Crystal Bradford play her first game with the Sparks, play the Liberty at Staples back on July 22nd this year. Obviously, we saw a lot of things that, of course, need to be that I think could have been adjusted for Crystal during her course of play. But Crystal, obviously, look at the entire rest of the puzzle for the Sparks. Your thoughts about the rest of the team, though, that we did not get to tonight, but of course other pieces of the puzzle like Tolo and Tamika Johnson, Michelle Snow, Abdi, and all those players, so on and so forth. Your thoughts and why?
well, yes, Crystal Bradford was a project. I think if she slows down, she plays really fast. She plays street ball. I think once she slows down and develops, she will actually be a very great role player. She one of the great things that she did so well was defend and get rebounds, which is what we lacked a lot of, which was a lot of defense. I think once she slows down and actually works on her shot, works on a couple of things, she will be a force to reckon with. And there is one person on the bench that I'm not very too fond of, and her name is Maria Abdi. I tried to praise Abdi, but she's been on the team for what 2 3 years now, and she's not really doing nothing. I think it's time for Abdi to go. I'm just gonna be completely honest. Um, she's nice, nothing against her. Really nice, really nice person, but Abdi's got to go. I mean, anytime, and I'm gonna tell you reasons why. When you're on the bench in a playoff game, this is a true story. I'm not making this up for the people that are watching. You're on the bench in a playoff game, close game against a really great team, champions. They won the champions this year. You should not be on the bench hollering "World Star" um, to the crowd in the middle of a game. I think at that point it was real close. It was when we had that scare. LA came out at halftime, and they kind of lost a little bit of gas. Looking at the bench, looking at the crowd yelling "World Star." I've never felt so disrespected as a Sparks fan in my life. Um, it was just bad. It was bad. I think our only problem with the bench is that might be our only person on the bench that might not need to be on the bench anymore. Um, Everybody else, they're rookies, they're young, they're a work in progress, but Abdi's got to go. I'm gonna start a campaign in 2015. Well, it'll be 2016, and we're gonna sign a petition to let Abdi go. Abdi could go anywhere but except for LA. She can't come back. Sorry, guys. Whoever's an Abdi fan, but Abdi got to go. And I mean that with the bottom of my heart.
I don't know if there'll be another petition campaign like what Shorty and myself did for the Sparks, the Save Our Sparks campaign a few seasons ago. Maybe I'll talk to the people, Crystal, who are trying to save the Chargers in San Diego. Maybe they can help us out with that campaign, perhaps. We'll work on that at a later time and date. With that, though, guys, Shorty, we'll go back to you. I know that you had that minor technical fault at the worst possible time while you're giving your answer. In conclusion, though, Shorty, your final thoughts on the final thoughts on the entire Sparks season as a whole, to put it in perspective, your final thoughts on the night are what?
I mean, so many things went down with Sparks season, but at least they made it to the playoffs, and at least they did force a game 3 in the playoffs versus the Lynx. I was very proud that they did that, especially with the start that they had. To eventually, go to the playoffs and at least show, the league what they're made of. But other than that, I mean, I'm hoping that they have a much better season. Hopefully, not too many injuries, and hopefully, Candace will be well rested, and all the other players, come back well rested to just pretty much ball out. But last but not least, I mean, there is this one thing that Crystal in particular is scared of, which is free agency for next year.
Don't remind me.
Free agents for next year. Candace Parker is going to be an unrestricted free agent unless she is cored again, because according to WNBA rules, a franchise can core a player up to 2 years. So this would be Parker's second year to be cored if the franchise choose to. So she will be back. Christy Tolliver will become an unrestricted free agent. So hopefully she comes back to Los Angeles, or if not, Crystal will have a heart attack, and then I'll have to bury her if she passes away, and then I'll have a heart attack, and then Callan will have to bury me afterwards. And,
y'all thought the way I acted for game 1 would be something. If she leaves, it's gonna be, man. Oh my goodness.
Elena Beard, free agent, an unrestricted free agent, and last but not least, Nneka Ogwumike will be a restricted free agent. So we'll see how that all plays out next season.
All right, Crystal, obviously, other than free agency for next season, your final thoughts on the entire 2015 campaign for the Sparks. Obviously, a lot of turmoil, turbulence, whatever you want to say. 0-7 start, worst in franchise history. 3-15 first half record of the All-Star break. Of course, Candace Parker misses the first half of the season. Ultimately, though, playoffs for the 15th time, most playoff appearances by a team in WNBA history, 15th. appearance out of the 19 years of the league. Your final thoughts on the season are what?
This is going to sound very cliche, but they really did prove the moniker. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Um, it started off rough, but just them being able to make the playoffs was good enough for me as a fan. Yes, we want more, but sometimes you got to just, take what's given. And as a fan, I can respect that they made it to the playoffs. To let you know that they were at least trying down the stretch. Um, this season was tough. I'm not gonna lie. I felt like I was in the locker room for a minute. It was just real tough. I mean, there's all you can say is there was a lot of resiliency in the season. There was a lot of perseverance, like Shorty used earlier. I think a couple of changes got to be made. One of them is Abdi being let go. Um, that other than that, I mean, we hopefully Decor, Candace Parker, hopefully Chrissy Tarver comes back. Elena Beard, we don't really know what's going on there because she is older, and we're not quite sure. But the season, it was eventful. It was a roller coaster. It was like being at Six Flags every day they played, and not in a fun way either. So hopefully, hopefully everything next season goes well. Hopefully Abdi won't be coming back, and we'll see where it goes from there.
You guys brought it up, though, about, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and I read a lot of feedback during the playoffs in the Facebook fan group for the Sparks about, kind of being like rags to riches almost, how the team was, 0-7, 3-15, and ultimately, of course, didn't finish at 500 or better, but, of course, got in the postseason in the back door, and, of course, lost to a better opponent, and, of course, the eventual champs, but, like we all said, it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and, of course, again, we kind of got a pretty ugly glimpse about what life would be like if Candace Parker would have set out the full season and/or left, perhaps, because that team that we saw was not, in any position to be relevant this season if Parker had sat out or if she was even gone, perhaps. But again, folks, Sparks will finish the season 14-20. In fourth place in the WNBA Western Conference, but ultimately they'll make the postseason, but are ultimately eliminated in 3 games by the eventual champion Minnesota Lynx in a tough 3-game series that was contested between those two sides of the story. With that, though, folks, we will be back with you folks tomorrow night back here between 9 and 9:30. We'll let you folks know on Twitter about showtime, and again tomorrow night we'll be recapping the season, also a rough season as well, both on the floor and off the court with a lot of problems and a relocation. All that and more when we talk about the Tulsa Shock tomorrow night back here on WNBA 365, folks. And also real quick, I wanted to throw out a disclaimer, but that we apologize, but Todd Mintz could not join us tonight because he got a bit lost in coverage with our start time tonight. Originally we were at 9:30, but he asked to move it up to 9 o'clock, and ultimately he got a bit lost in the fray, so Todd will hopefully rejoin us sometime down the road. But with that, though, folks, till tomorrow night, have a safe night, drive home safely. Thanks for stopping by and joining us, and good night now. This has been the WNBA 365 Network. We are the WNBA covering anything and everything in regards to the WNBA and the women's basketball universe. For Crystal Thomas and Tanisha Stewart, all up in Los Angeles, Cal McClurgan signing off, and we'll see you folks right back here again tomorrow night. Till then, have a safe night, and see you tomorrow night. Bye-bye.